Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold.
Welcome everyone to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. I am your host, Dave from LA, coming to you live from FEMA Region number 6. And today is Monday, January the 16th, 2016. It is the observation of Dr. King's birthday. And hope you all are enjoying your time, had a great time off with your family, and took some time to prepare for some of the things that's going to be coming in the future. But we're going to get into, that a little bit later. But before we jump into the show, and once again, I just want to thank you all for listening to Thando Radio Show. You are the reason why we're here. Also, everyone, continue to support Black Talk Radio Network by going to the website for Black Talk Radio Network, www.blacktalkradionetwork.com, www.blacktalkradionetwork.com. And on the far right-hand margin, you'll see a green donation icon that you can hit that has two people holding hands, and that symbolizes you assisting Black Talk Radio Network and us in a partnership to get to where we need to be and continue to bring information, bring opportunity, bring dialogue, bring solutions to yourself, your family, and our overall community in a collective prudence manner. So definitely continue to support Black Talk Radio Network by making some of your financial donations so the Black Talk Radio Network and its programs can continue to expand. Also, if you're interested or you're one of the individuals that actually use social media, well, Black Talk Radio Network has a social media outlet for you where you can engage in your regular social media activities without having the worry of being adversely affected by what you post, what you say, how you comment, and what it is that you actually contribute in. And that's where Black Talk Radio Network has established a social media outlet known as BTR Community. And you can go to right there on the website, just scroll down on the far right-hand side. You will see the BTR Community icon. It's a B. Or you can go to www.btrcommunity.com, and that will get you straight into the website. Now, this social media outlet is $24 a year, and that's to cover all of the social media costs to maintain the overall network. And believe me, Facebook, Twitter, and all that other stuff, you may think it's free, but it's not. It's actually costing you in so many different ways. The data mining and your identity is being sold to bidders and everything else. You don't have to worry about that with Black Talk Radio Network because that's not what it's going to do. And not only that, at Black Talk Radio Network, at BTR Community, you can post things about you, your business, events that you're having or events someone else is having, anything you want to highlight or put the spotlight on to bring more attention. You can do that, and you don't have to worry about, like I said earlier, you being adversely affected by your overall activities, which a lot of people don't realize that they are at some of the mainstream media outlets, but not at BTR Community. Also, if you're interested in acquiring real money, you can go to Prosperity Mint, PROSPERITYMINT.com. Go to Prosperity Mint, and you can actually start to save as a king or queen, or to save as a lady and gentleman by transferring what you're paid in cash, or however you come across your cash. You can put it into real money and have a real measures of savings that way. That is money. Everything else is credit. Cash is not money. So definitely you can do that, but make sure you email wolf6pack1@gmail.com. Okay, so with that being said, let's jump into what's in the news, and then we're going to get into today's show. And at any time, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call at 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. And hit star. We'll see you. And or you can announce yourself. Just say, excuse me, and someone will know that you're on the line. Especially if we're in the middle of reading an article or looking at some things or talking. Just announce yourself if no one sees you there. Usually, if I see you there, I will definitely say, "Hold on, we'll be right to you." But if not, that may mean that I'm not on the screen to see. So. Just you can just say excuse me, and then we'll know that you're there, and then we'll get to you as soon as we possibly can. Okay? Because I don't like to keep the callers waiting. All right. So let's jump into what's in the news, and we got a couple of stories. I didn't want to post too much today, but what we posted I thought was very, very important. So we're going to jump into that. But before we do that, we need to take a look at some things from last week that I missed, and some of that is going to be a part of today's show. So let's jump into it. First thing we posted last Friday that was important that we missed is that last week I actually watched it live. The U.S. Mint had announced a new commemorative 225-year commemorative gold coin, and it shows the head shows the head in profile with a crown of stars. The Mint says that its new coin will be culturally and ethnically diverse in the United States. And what did they use? They actually had a sister in braids for the new gold coin that's going to be coming out in April, around April the 6th, I believe it is. April the 6th is when it's going to be coming out, and it's going to be the 225th anniversary of the Mint, and it's going to be from the 2017 commemorative gold coin, and it has a sister in braids that is going to be representing so-called Lady of Liberty. That's one thing that the Mint has, is it always so-called has a Lady of Liberty, which I highly, doubt that there's any liberty that this really is all about. It's all a facade. But in any case, they have given a sister with braids to represent the Lady of Liberty that's wearing a crown of stars. So check out that article. Actually watched it live myself. So just some of the things that I got to keep up on and know what's going on. So check that out. Okay, so now, next article. And this one came from the Independence. China state media tells Trump team to prepare for war. We talked about that on Friday, so check that out. But after that, later on Friday evening, there was we talked about that one as well. 1 second. Sorry about that. So we got that one. Next one, this is the one that I missed. This one came from the Mail online, is the dailymail.co.uk. Russia deploys anti-aircraft missile systems around Moscow. So that happened on last week. Very, very important, because the U.S. has sent a large contingency of military tanks, troops, in everything, armament to Poland and into the Baltic states. And so that whole thing could go awry at any moment. So just wanted to let you know about that. Some of the things that we posted today that I thought were extremely important we need to talk about. This one comes from SCMP, the South China Morning Post, and it says, China's tabloid says, U.S. needs to wage war to block off South Sea China Islands. We're definitely going to come back to this. Blocking China's access to islands in the South Sea of China will require the United States to wage war. Influential Chinese state-run tabloid said on Friday after the U.S. Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson, and we're going to jump into that because that's going to be a part of today's show. Also, next article. This one came from as well the South Sea. The 1 second. This one comes from the South China Morning Post. Sorry about that. And this what article says: Beijing hits back at Trump. One China policy is not negotiable. Without it, there will be no grounds for the U.S. relationships, for China and U.S. relationship, a foreign minister said. Very, very important. We're going to take a look at that really quickly. Let me just hit this real quick so that you know as this starts to evolve and it's coming apart very quickly. Beijing hit back at the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on the weekend, saying the one China policy is not negotiable, a foreign minister spokesman. Kang said late on Saturday that the one China principle was the political foundation for the Sino-U.S. ties. It's not negotiable. We urge the relevant parties in the United States to recognize the highly sensitivity of Taiwan's issue and to stick to the promise made by both political parties in the U.S. over the years, he said. So this thing is starting to fall apart because the the Taiwanese president is going to be flying back, and she's scheduled to stop in San Francisco. And that, when she stopped in Houston, that caused China to really be upset. But this whole thing is starting to fall apart. So things you need to know about, because you need to be prepared for how this is going to unfold. And we're going to talk about that today. So check out that article. Next one. Doesn't stop there. And I said, laugh out loud. This is working right into the hands of GNW1, which I call, whenever you see GNW1, that comes from me saying Global Nuclear War 1, even though it won't be the first time. But this comes from TheGuardian.com. Germany hits back at Trump's criticism of refugee policy and BMW tariff threats. So this thing is starting to, and here, let's take a look at this really quickly, because I think it has a lot to do with what's going on and starting to see the overall unraveling of relations and just the tenuous predicament that's being built and how they're going to move this into much more, and we need to be definitely prepared for, and that's what we're really going to try to get you all to be ready for, is just to be ready for some of the things that's being actually put in front of you all. Okay, so this article comes from TheGuardian.com, and this is a UK paper publication. The Deputy Chancellor to Germany blames America's flawed policies for refugee crisis and warns of bad awakening for the U.S. car makers. Here it goes. Now, I'll ask you all, don't Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, don't she look like somebody in the past in history from Germany? Don't she look like that? She's somebody's daughter? Think about it. I've said it before, but she definitely does. All right, so here we go. Berlin has mounted a staunch defense of its policies after Donald Trump criticized the celebrity German Chancellor Angela Merkel for her stance during the refugee crisis and threatened a 35% tariff on BMW cars imported into the United States. And here's what they said. Germany's Deputy Chancellor and Minister for the Economy, move this down, Gabriel said on Monday morning today that a tax on German imports would lead to a bad awakening among U.S. car makers since they were reliant on transatlantic supply chains. I believe BMW's biggest factory is already in the United States, in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Gilbert said, leader of the central-left Social Democratic Party told the newspaper in a video interview. The car industry would have a bad awakening if all of the supply parts aren't being built in the United States, in the U.S., were suddenly come with a 35% tariff. I believe it would be a mistake for the U.S. car industry. I believe it would make the U.S. car industry weaker, worse, and above all, most expensive and more expensive. I will wait and see. Let me move this down. I will wait and see what the Congress has to say about that, which is mostly full of people who want the opposite of Trump. Let me move this down a little more. In an interview with Blythe in the Times, the U.S. President-elect had indicated that he would aim to realign the out-of-balance car trade between Germany and the U.S. And this is what someone said, in quote, if you go down Fifth Avenue, everyone has a Mercedes-Benz in front of his house. Isn't that the case? He said. How many Chevrolets do you see in Germany? Not very many, maybe none at all. It's a one-way street. Asked what Trump could do to make sure German customers bought more American cars. Gabriel said, build better cars. Man, this whole thing is starting to, let me tell you, you go to currency wars, you go to trade wars, and then you go to shooting wars. When trade stops, that's when hot confrontation it starts. That's when you start to turn into hot wars. And, oh, man, this whole thing is building up. It's building up, definitely. So check out that article. I think it's very, very important for you to know that. Okay, so today's topic is preparing to be in the middle of a crisis situation. Some things to think about. Very, very important. We need to, that's what we're going to talk about today, preparing to be in the middle of a crisis situation. Some things to think about, because even if you never put into a crisis situation, or if you've never been into a crisis situation, in the future, the likelihood of everyone here being confronted with a very overt crisis situation is very, very high. And in my opinion, it is definitely going to happen, and it's going to be much sooner than later. And so we just want to lay out some things and give you some ideas and some guidance, and like to hear from you as well about the subject. Don't hesitate. Call in today. Ask some questions. Get some opinions. Let's really, because it's going to be too late once things start to really, really unfold. And I don't think that what's going to be in store, especially from what's coming from the destabilization geopolitically, it's never been like this before. This is like a Cuban Missile Crisis against multiple countries, against this country, that country, this country, this country, and because it really is. And at one point, at one time, it's all going to go boom, because the U.S. it's already been mandated that the U.S. is to be dissolved. And it's not going to be dissolved quietly. It is going to be dissolved through the trickery and the deception of war. But you need to know and be prepared for that. So at any time, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 1-866-510-9025, 1-866-510-9025. This is my opinion. And so we're going to definitely take a look at that. So now, before we go, what I want to do is I want to preface this show by reading you an article. Very, very important, because this article is going to spin into today's show, because this is just one of the things that I think is on the front burners, and I've always said that I always thought that the first thing is going to really come out of the South Sea of China. And it already has. And that is not going back into the bottle, because it's designed to do that, and it's been created to do, and that's what it's going to do. So now, there's an article from the South China Morning Post that you need to know about, and here it is. Chinese tabloid said Chinese tabloid says U.S. needs to wage war to block off the South Sea of China islands. Comments by the Global Times following U.S. Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson suggesting to deny Beijing's access to the islands in the strategical waterways. And this was done last week. We're actually going to take a listen and so that you can hear it for yourself, and then we're going to definitely talk about that. But first, let's listen to what he says, then let's go to this article. So what I want to do, what I want to do is I want you to hear a couple of things that was said, and so that you can see what's really going on, so that you can realize that there is no conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen. There are major conspiracies against you. You may think it may be against that person, this organization, that organization, but it's really not. It's against you. It's about keeping you right where you are or even further in a subjugated way. So you need to know. So let's, what I want to do, let's check out these. I want you to hear from Rex Tillerson during his Secretary of State Senate confirmation hearings, and hear some of the things out of his own mouth. Then we're going to read this article. Then we need to talk about what is this likely to create. So let's check this out. Here we go. 1 second. Give me 1 second. So just setting it up. Okay, here we go.
China's island building in the South China Sea is an illegal taking of disputed areas without regard for international norms. China's economic and trade practices have not always followed its commitments to global agreements. It steals our intellectual property and is aggressive and expansionist in the digital realm. It has not been a reliable partner in using its full influence to curb North Korea. China has proven a willingness to act with abandon in the pursuit of its own goals, which at times has put it in conflict with American interest. We have to deal with what we see, not what we hope. But we need to see the positive dimensions in our relationship with China as well. The economic well-being of our two nations is deeply intertwined. China has been a valuable ally in curtailing certain elements of radical Islam. We should not let disagreements over other issues exclude areas for productive partnership.
Men and women that we cherish so much in our military are much.
To achieve the stability that is foundational to peace and security in the 21st century, American leadership must not only be renewed, it must be asserted. We have many advantages on which to build. Our alliances are durable, and our allies are looking for a return of our leadership. Our men and women in uniform are the world's finest fighting force, and we possess
There's some protesters that's there at the Senate confirmation hearing. Did you hear what he said? Here we go. He's going to come back.
Home when I would come back from my many travels, and also for our sons and now our 5 grandchildren. Our role in the world has also historically entailed a place of moral leadership. In the scope of international affairs, America's level of goodwill toward the world is unique, and we must continue to display a commitment to personal liberty, human dignity, and principled action in our foreign policy. Quite simply, we are the only global superpower with the means and the moral compass capable of shaping the world for good.
Moral compass.
If we do not lead, we risk plunging the world deeper into confusion and danger.
Campaign of active measures involving the hacking of emails, the specific leak of these emails.
Senator, sanctions are a powerful tool, and they're an important tool in terms of deterring additional action. Once actors have acted up, we want to deter any further action on their part. So yes, American leadership is oftentimes, if not almost always, required to demonstrate that first step.
I want to pick up a little bit on sanctions because I've had.
Okay, I want you to hear one more thing. Did you hear what he said? The moral compass, and the U.S. is the only one, and they have, man, this whole thing is going to completely implode. What they're basically saying is that they're going to forcefully interject themselves in the world by force. And let me tell you, that's the whole setup. That's the whole setup. Now you know why they said that it's time to give equal opportunity to women when they never had any kind of equal opportunity for anyone. It's about the opportunity to control and subjugate and to enslave. That's what this whole thing is all about. Let me just say this. They fund all sides of the war. And until we continue, and while we continue to play by their rules, nothing ever really changes. Their overall objective and agenda always is met. So that is very critical for us to know. And so, but there's another one I want you to hear. But I really want you to hear what he said about China and what they think they should be doing with China. But hold on, there's even more. The next part of it is even greater. Then we need to look at this because this is going to create a climate that is going to directly affect you. And it doesn't matter. Let me tell you, Trump won the celebrity figurehead CEO position 8 years ago. And Obama just won recently in November. And you're saying, Dave, what are you talking about? Because nothing has changed. It's the same agenda. They just have different wings to deceive you, but they're flying the bird in the same direction. The left wing and the right wing keeps the bird in the air and keeps the bird soaring. So, hear this. This is very, very important.
Dave, before you play that.
Because this is the whole setup. Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, how long is it? Because we only got a couple of minutes to break. You might want to hold it to the other side of break. But
okay, yeah. Okay, you were doing a break after 30. Okay.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You right. I'm wrong. That's right, Dave. Look, I got so much to keep up with, man. Thank you for setting me straight.
I know, brother.
Hey, listen though, just piggybacking off of what you said, just the arrogance and hubris in that statement. And when has this not ever been their attitude? You know, it just but what gets me is that people right now in this country that look like you and me will buy into that, man. That USA, we number one. And just, man, I mean, it's just so childish, man. But, I mean, just the arrogance and the hubris. The only superpower, dude, anybody with a nuclear weapon, if you ask me, is a superpower. Come on.
Oh. Exactly, Scotty. And how about this? Any person, anyone, any living entity with a free will is a superpower. Because that's the distraction that they don't want you to know. Your overall energy is even stronger than any nuclear weapon. Your energy is much stronger, but it's exactly what you said. There's a lot of people on all sides of the fence that's buying into it. Let me tell you why it is. Because they like to divide people through emotions, through perception, and through tactics, asymmetrical tactics to control them, to get what they want. And this is why people think that voting for Barack 8 years ago was going to change something. Dude went in bombing and killing and doing... And people think that this dude is going to change something. No, that keeps everything the same. Keep you divided and thinking that your vote really does. The person that you're rooting for, your team is really going to win. Wait till you see how they really classify you. They classify you as human resource. And, man, it is going to come to a hot and heavy ordeal. We just want you to be prepared for it. So, yeah, it is so arrogant. And it's arrogant on all sides. And we're going to talk about that. They don't have the means and the capability to do this stuff. Mattis, I don't think I'm going to get to play Mattis. Mattis said that in his Senate confirmation hearing. That, no, the U.S., and he talked about Russia being the enemy, China being the enemy, and how they need to back NATO and they need to curtail and don't get it twisted. Russia's our enemy, and basically saying that they need to move into war against them. And this is the whole setup. So, but listen to this carefully. What he said. Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. This one, and I got this one from the Daily Mail, one of the same articles. So they're going to add some of theirs, but it's really good. Here we go.
Not only be renewed, it must be asserted.
as he seeks to become President-elect Donald Trump's Secretary of State. Former ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson taking a forceful line Wednesday on the U.S. role in the world and talking tough on Russia.
Russia today poses a danger.
But hanging over the room, questions about Tillerson's own warm ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin amid allegations Putin intervened in the 2016 elections to benefit Trump. Those worries only heightened by claims that Putin may be holding compromising information on Trump. Tillerson says he has no illusions about Putin and said it was a, quote, fair assumption that Putin knew about the campaign hacks.
We're not likely to ever be friends.
But he added, Trump's push for engagement with Moscow is the right call. Late in the day, Tillerson raising eyebrows on China policy, going beyond Trump's tough rhetoric, saying China should be denied access to the artificial islands it's built in the disputed South China Sea.
We're going to have to send China a clear signal that first, the island building stops, and second, your access to those islands is also not going to be allowed.
Tillerson's business record creating awkward moments. New Jersey Senator Robert Menendez took Tillerson to task over his opposition to sanctions imposed on Russia when it annexed the Crimean Peninsula in Ukraine.
I have never lobbied against sanctions, personally. I continue to believe the company you directed did. To my knowledge, Exxon never directly lobbied against sanctions.
Later, Menendez produced reports he said showed Exxon had lobbied to stop Russian sanctions.
All I know, Senator, is I don't...
Could you imagine? Tillerson's testimony interrupted several times by protesters angry over ExxonMobil's environmental record.
Okay, senators, be brave. That's like talking to... There is no moral conviction or moral appeal that you can make appealing to the overall rulers and the celebrity figurehead rulers, because they're going to do what they're told. The corporations are a part of the system that really dictate everything. So I wanted you to hear that, and specifically what he said about China. They're going to have to stop building there, and your access to those islands are going to be denied. Really? So now, let's check out what China's response was, and so that you have a clear understanding. And this is some very, very relevant and important stuff. Regardless of what this is, some of the things is there's a lot of distractions that's happening right now. This in itself is a PSYOPs campaign. You need to be able to shuffle through it all. What does it matter if the U.S., Russia, and China go to war when the people that are going to be actually killed in those wars aren't the very people that are declaring them or engaging in that? It's going to be you, your family, your kind, your ideologies, your prosperity that is going to be sacrificed and on the altar. This is the deception of war. It is waged not against national existence. It's waged against humanity. And we say, no, it's just because that's the spell that we've been placed under. I'm going to just tell you this. I did something that I usually don't do. I went and saw a movie today. And in seeing this movie, it reaffirmed that I don't ever need to see another movie in my life, because there's nothing but spells and sorcery that's going on. Hollywood is the great dark magic sorcerer of the time. It has moved into the spell casting, has moved to the art of cinema, but it's always been that way through its elaborate productions. And it's nothing more than casting spells. And I said, yep, don't need to be a part of this. And I'm going to tell you, a friend of mine said, hey, Dave, you should really check out this one movie. I said, all right, I'll go check it out. It was the Assassin's Creed. And said, it's a lot of stuff that you talk about, and I saw it, and I was like, wow. So, a good friend of mine, good friend of mine. So I went, And I realized once again, forgot. Don't fall for it, Dave. Don't put yourself in harm's way. We have to cherish our spirit. We have to cherish who we really are, not to be influenced by deceptive tactics. And I was like, yep, this is some boop, boop. So, but just wanted to let you know. So let's check out. We got some time yet, but I would love to hear from you all. Give us a call at 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Go ahead, Scotty. You got a question. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My question to you, you were just
talking. And then
talking.
Milwaukee, we're going to come. Sorry about this. And then Rob in Milwaukee, we're going to come right to you right after Scotty. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, you just commented, what does it matter if the U.S., China, and Russia go to war when the people making the decision are not going to be out there bleeding and dying and getting limbs blown off and stuff like that. But how much of this do you think plays into the decline of the U.S. White population with their birth rates falling below their death rates? How much of these wars, whether they're declared, undeclared wars since World War II, how much of that do you think is playing into it? And if they do go to war with Russia and China, do you think that's going to speed up the projections that whites will cease to be the dominant population in this country?
I think it's a lot of good questions there. Now, what is going on? Yes, there has always been a depopulation. See, one of the things about this system is this. It has no allegiance to anyone. It uses everyone. Everyone. So when we look at it, it's using the momentum that is creating to maintain the distraction of human destruction, and they break it into categories because it's much easier to weigh. So yes, this is definitely a part of the decline of the white
Dave,
community.
Speaking of movies, last comment. Speaking of movies like American Sniper, that's what gets these people all hyped up and bought into the system, and they want to go off and be war heroes, and they come back maimed if they come back at all.
Yep, and then they find out something totally different when they get in. Oh, we've been had. I've been had. This is because I know, Scotty, you experienced it. I experienced it. There is no loyalty. There is no loyalty to the slaves. And what they do is that they segregate and they segment the overall enslavement of people, and then they turn it around because they want us to be looking in one direction while they're attacking us from another area. There is no loyalty. Yes, they are totally going to annihilate the all communities. But what they do is they realize that there is benefit to exploiting of the destruction of communities, and they use it to their advantage. Then the second part was, is this going to be a part of the overall downfall of the U.S.? Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And what is going to happen is that every time that there's a depopulation war, until the people really walk away from the system that put them in war, if you don't walk away from that system that puts you into a global war, and you think that now all of a sudden it's saying that you are right and that they're going to take care of you, and you need, it's your turn, it's this and that, you are falling for the biggest trick in the book called diversion. And what they're going to do is that they're definitely going to do it. And when they crash it, they're going to dismantle it, and they're going to bring up a new. And they're going to actually use that leverage to maintain control over everything. So, yes, war is a measure of depopulation to get a firmer grip on the overall global slave and subjugation and enslavement paradigm. It is a must to have it. You can't have famines. You can't have wars. You can't have famines. You can't have economic depression. You can't have fear. You can't have all of their historical institutions. You can't have slavery. You can't have subjugation without those elements being a part of everyday life and without having the proper schooling of your slaves. You have to get your slaves to surrender their free will to the system. That is enslavement. It's a willful engagement in your capture. So very, very important. So we got another caller, my man out of Milwaukee. I think that's Rob. Rob, is that you in Milwaukee that's calling?
Yes, sir. How's it going, Brother Dave?
What's up, brother? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling all right. Greetings, Brother Scotty.
Good to hear your voice, brother.
Hey,
yes, sir.
I saw that movie, Assassin's Creed, man. And when they was talking about free will, I thought instantly about Dave from LA, right? So I wanted to, after watching the movie, right, I thought I had an analysis of it, and at the end of the movie, I was confused. So I would like you to go, if you don't mind, going to your analysis of the movie and why you not feeling Hollywood. And thank you for taking the call.
Man, great, as always, man. I'm going to tell you, because they fund both sides of the war. That movie is a great depiction of funding both sides of the war, because they gave you some truth. There's a little bit of truth, but they're telling you what they're actually trying to do. And what they're trying to do in that whole thing in that movie is they talk about your free will. But everything that they said in that whole thing about free will had everything with controlling it by their measures and by their means. They made the game Assassin's Creed. They told you the story of that, but none of that stuff was true. It was bits of truth in order to get the agenda of what they really want. This was a classic example of funding both sides of the war. Case in point, if you saw that movie, and for my man Rob, he saw it. What they did was they wanted you to think there was such thing as the good guys versus the bad guys, when both of them were both serving the same purpose. Was both serving the same purpose.
Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
That exactly right there, that's what confused me about the movie. And I thought I had a handle on it, right? And at the end of the movie, I'm sitting there like, what the hell did I just watch? And that's it, man, because the quote-unquote assassins who was supposed to be doing the good work was just flat-out murderous savages. Thank you.
That was it right there. Because they're telling you how to riot. They're telling you how to engage. They're telling you how to act. And when you act that way, you are giving what? Energy to the whole thing. From that whole movie, the Knight Templar, and the story of that, and the Knight Templars, you could basically say that they're the bankers. That's who they really are, the bankers. And then the warring side of it, that's all a facade. Let me tell you what the real truth is. The truth is already in you. Don't give energy to it. It can't exist. And Rob, just for you, remember there was one scene, and I hate doing this, but you remember there was one scene where the assassin's knife or dagger was placed on the table, and he walked away from it. And what did that assassin do? Picked up the tools of destruction. When the peace and the prosperity of it was always, everyone's there, but they had a choice. They chose to engage in that whole system. That whole movie, and I think all the movies, are based in sorcery. Black magic to get you to think one thing that really is upholding and supporting and aiding and abetting and harboring the destructive nature of our enslavement. So yeah, man, I really do regret doing that and engaging in that. But we'll get by it. We'll get past it. So, man, great call as always, Rob, brother. I appreciate you so much. So, all right. So now, jumping back in too, but jump in at any time, Rob, if you wanted to get back in. All right. So now, how much time we got? Okay, cool. So now, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. 866-5. Oh shoot, what's the number? Okay, 866-510-9025. 866-510-9025. Then hit star. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, we'd love to hear from you. A dialogue is much more important than a monologue. Just talking about some of the things that are happening in the world that we need to prepare for. And I want to give this as an example. So now let me jump into then the second hour. We're going to talk about the crisis situations that we are likely to see and how you should be responded to and some things you want to think about in responding to it all. So now there was an article that goes along with the celebrity figurehead Secretary of State nominee said, and very important. Here it goes. So you heard what he said, that he want to stop China. First, get China to stop building on those islands and deny access to China. Okay, so this is what happened. Here's what it says. Now, this comes from the South China Morning Post. China's tabloid says, U.S. needs to wage war to block off the South Sea of China island. Comments by the Global Times follows U.S. Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson suggesting to deny Beijing's access to the islands in strategical waters. Why is it strategical, ladies and gentlemen? Because the new economic paradigm is going to be based in assets, and that is a critical waterway and access point and thoroughfare for the whole world to engage in trade. Because it's going to be done from China. So now, here it goes. Here's the article. Blocking China's access to islands in the South Sea of China will require the United States to wage war. An influential Chinese state-run tabloid said on Friday after the U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson suggested the strategy on Wednesday. Now, that one was Global Times is the tabloid they're talking about. Tillerson told his confirmation hearing before the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee that he wanted to send a signal to China that access to those islands in the disputed South Sea of China is not going to be allowed. Now, let me say he did not elaborate. Now, let me tell you about the overall dispute. The Philippines no longer have a dispute with China over the South Sea, over Scarborough Shoals or the South Sea of China. Vietnam is moving towards the United. Watch the Association of Southeastern Asian Nations, the ASEAN nations are going to move towards China in this whole thing because they know the writing is on the wall. The U.S. is done. So only real people that have dispute there that want to choke off that whole point is who? The U.S. And that's why they said that they have to be the moral compass in the world. This is nothing more than political plausible deniability into getting into war and say someone else caused it. Let me ask you something. How many navies do you see in the Gulf of Mexico or off of California, or preventing ships from coming into the port of Los Angeles, the port of Washington, the port of New Orleans, the port of New York City, and so forth and so on. In Miami, how many sanctions do you see by other countries against the United States? But see, they wage this because they are the colonizers. How many aircraft carriers does the United States have compared to the rest of the world? Because the rest of the world is not trying to project their overall agenda by force. And in the old ways, that was the way to do it. But in the new way, that's not the way to do it. That's the old way. So very, very important. So I want to get back to this article. Okay, so it goes on. It says access to disputed islands is not going to be allowed. He did not elaborate. The U.S. would have to wage a large-scale war in the South Sea of China to prevent Chinese access to the islands, the Global Times said in English-language editorial. The newspaper is known for writing strong-worded, hawkish, and nationalist editorials. Is published by the ruling Communist Party flagship paper. It does not reflect the Chinese policy. Tillerson had better bone up on nuclear power strategies if he wants to force a big nuclear power to withdraw from its own territories, the paper said. Here it says, Tillerson better bone up on nuclear power strategies if he wants to force a big nuclear power to withdraw from its own territories, the paper added. The editorial also said that Tillerson, ExxonMobil Corporation chairman and former chief executive, was the most likely of the U.S. Donald Trump's cabinet picks to be vetoed by Congress. Doesn't matter. They're going to put somebody else in. This is all a stage. It is suspected that he merely wanted to curry favor from senators by increasing his chances by being confirmed by intentionally showing a tough stance towards China, it said. The paper did not elaborate on it either way. A similar article also carried in the paper's Chinese language website, which receives thousands of hits every day. There was also legal questions over any U.S. attempt to block China's access, the editorial said, asking if this might mean that Vietnam and the Philippines also should be denied entry. China claimed the most of this energy-rich South Sea of China, through which $5 trillion in ship-borne trade passes every year. So now, this is what I want to say about this. Here, what I want you to remember. Remember the article, and I know my man Scotty will remember because he stopped the whole show and said, wait a minute, Dave, whoa. Remember what China said. If you continue to interfere, we will fund and we will arm your enemies. We will fund your own demise. We will fund it, and we will make sure it happens. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what does that mean? Does that mean later or during the war? I'm going to tell you when that means. That means before the war starts. That means you're going to start to see, because the handwriting is already on the wall. China now is going to start to fund the destabilization, which they've already done in the U.S., and they're going to do it by various means, not set by one. And it's not always going to be the well-publicized way of, they're going to do it discreetly and subtly, and it's going to have power. How do they do that? Destabilizing the dollar, destabilizing the trade, and actually funding destabilization programs right here. Oh, man. And this is why we need to talk about it. But in my opinion, don't be surprised if both sides of this war is being funded. When you feed the bird, both wings gain energy from its full belly. And that's what's going to be happening here. So, listen, everyone, we're going to get ready to go to a commercial break. And when we come out of the commercial break, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Then hit *, And then we will definitely see you in queue. If not, just say, excuse me, we'll bring you up. We'd love to hear from you. You need to start to really get prepared because there are going to be events that are going to be, organic and events from outside and inside. It doesn't matter. You're always going to be the target. You need to be ready for it. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after these quick commercial breaks.
Black Talk Radio, your choice for digital black radio. New black media for the new millennium.
Okay, welcome back everyone to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. It's me, your host, Dave from LA, and coming to you live from FEMA region number 6. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call at 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Then hit *, see you in queue, or if we're reading something or we don't get you right away, just say excuse me. We'll jump in. Would love to hear from you all today because that helps get people, that really helps with people getting and seeing some things differently because we really need to talk about. So what we just talked about is we talked about the advent moves that's going on. This whole country is destabilized right now. I know you can feel the tension. You could feel that something is going on because there's a whole lot of going on. There's a lot of energy that's being placed into the system to push and pull it in a direction and to actually destabilize everything because that's intention. That's because there are individuals in the system wants a path to be followed, and this energy is pushing the majority of us on this one path, and that path is always to the path of impoverishment, to be defranchised, to actually lose our overall birth abilities, not our birth rights. Rights is something that man gives you. Your inalienable comes from you just being existent. Man didn't create you. Your energy is yours, but what you do with it is up to you, and that can be claimed by someone else as property when you surrender it. And this is what is being pushed, the continuous surrendering of our energy to the overall system of enslavement and subjugation. Very, very important. So now we have these fashions, and this whole drama gets played out so that we can see it, and then we will take sides, and we've been thoroughly schooled in this thing, from sports to shows, to entertainment, to music, and all these other things. We've been thoroughly put under a spell so that we continue to surrender ourselves, our abilities, what's ours, and what it is that, and our great capabilities that we have. And that's what it's really, really all about, in my opinion. So now, you have the destabilization, and this is why you're going to have these so-called the elections and all this other stuff. That's just the means in which to get you to go and buy into the direction of your own destruction. So, in my opinion, what do I think is going to be happening? Well, I think we're going to have that you need to be prepared for it. And it comes by weather. Let me tell you, they destabilize and attack you in multiple ways. Frequencies, which controls weather, controls your health, controls so many things. And these frequency bombardments attack your physical. And most of us think that our physical is the full embodiment of who we are. We don't even consider our spirit being, yes, we heard it all before, but see, that's the key to surrendering. For you to get to surrender is to give you some halfway truth, but then for you to come back and to do exactly what the system wants you to do. Stay physically involved in everything. So, we've been thoroughly schooled. So I do believe that we're going to see events, small ones, big ones, and it's going to continue to come about. And some is going to be perceived by natural weather events. Some things are going to be perceived by one or two individuals. Then there's going to be a group of individuals. Then there's going to be a national thing. Then it's going to be a geopolitical. Then it's going to go back to one or two things. And this is the thing of control. Ways and means. These people and this system continues to practice the overall flesh, just like it takes work for us to be enslaved. It takes work to maintain it. And sometimes it's just like any other business. When you've been doing it for so long and you set into motion a direction for that business, if you're so-called that business owner or that business controller, you could put it on such a good path and good course that its momentum will carry it without much influence or very little influence from you. It will take less and less energy from you to to guide things the way you want it to go, because that's the only thing that the business knows is that energy direction. If you really think about it, we have been indoctrinated to forget what it really is to be sovereign and self-determining. Yes, we say it, but just saying something is not the fulfillment of achieving it. It's practicing it. It's practicing it. So now I think that you're going to, especially from what's going on in the world, some of the things that we laid out, I think you're going to see some events that's going to happen, small and large. You've seen some as of lately. And I want to give just some hypothetical situations and some things that you should start to be thinking about. One of the things in the recent, you've seen some, all of a sudden there's, shootings all over the place. Active shooters, massive shootings and everything else. This is nothing new, but it's just enough. It's not a new tactic. It's just one that's preferred right now. And see how they're flipping the switch on everything on that. The same individuals that was calling for all kinds of gun control and everything else, and this is how the system gets you going and coming. They fund both sides of the war. Now, all of a sudden, there's a lot of people that was calling for gun control. Now that the celebrity figurehead Trump is going to be the celebrity figurehead president, now all of a sudden they think, oh, well, now we need to go buy guns. They done switched up. Let me tell you something about politics, ladies and gentlemen. It was created to control you. Either way, you lose. Why? There has not been any meaningful prosperity that has been waged anywhere. It's always a scale of the have and the have-nots. Oh, and they give the perception that one person has, and then when that system wears itself out or starts to expire or is no longer working as well, they'll take those haves and give them the nots. And then those have-nots will be given the haves. And we think that that's gain. So, very important. So now, I think you're going to continue. Let's take that for example, just in case you are, ladies and gentlemen, you may find yourself in a very violent situation in the future from just doing your daily life. And in that, you need to be aware of the event that you're in and how to prepare for it beforehand, some of the things you should be doing during, and some of the things that you need to be doing after. Very, very important. And this is where we're getting to some scenarios and some things that you may find yourself in. And are you prepared for it? And I will just say this. If you're not prepared for it, you're going to freeze. And you're going to make emotional decisions, and you're going to lose your mind. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to make the situation worse for you. Okay? Now, are there some things that can happen that can be out of your control? Yes. Most everything that happens sometimes is out of your control. Sometimes we influence a lot of things. I know I do, good and bad. But the most important thing is it doesn't matter what happens to you. Your reaction is your energy, your sovereignty, your free will. How you respond to it is the most important thing. And I just want to talk to you about some things that you, and some ways that you may want to respond in your best interest. If you are engaged in a violent, hostile situation, case in point, you could be, let's take some of the ones that have happened in recently. There was a so-called engagement at an airport in Florida, a shooting engagement. Now, don't be surprised, and do not think just because you see one thing that is everything that's going on. One of the things that you're going to have to do when stress goes high, you're going to have to be able to prepare your body, your physical body, not to respond completely physical. It has to be from the process of thought, else you're going to get tunnel vision. And the system knows this. And this is why they engage in things to set that just up. Case in point, you always need to know where you are at all times. While nothing is happening, that's where you need to be planning for what if something does happen. Where are my avenues of escape? What do I have with me that's resources to protect myself and my family? What will I need to get that's accessible to me in that situation? Case in point, let's say you were in that airport. One of the things that you want to do, definitely, if you ever, God forbid, you ever get yourself in a shooting situation, the first thing that you want to do is there's two things, cover and concealment, okay? Concealment means that whoever the aggressor is, they can't see you. Cover means that whatever they're using, whatever weapon that they're using can't penetrate to actually get you, okay? Cover is much better than concealment, but if all you can have is concealment, then do it. One of the things you don't need to do is to go through a emotional breakdown. Because if you go through an emotional breakdown, you will become paralyzed. So wherever you are, you want to get cover and concealment. Now from there, you want to start thinking about how can you get out of this situation as quickly as possible. Number one, case in point, if you are away from an incident and you hear it in the distance or somewhere in the distance, but you know it's not near you, do not be a nosy person and try to find out what is going on. That is the best opportunity for you to flee the area. That's going to be, you always want to get yourself out of harm's way, but there's a way in which you need to get out of the area. Okay? So now that's not the time for you to be nosy, break out, and what is the system, what have we been schooled to do? Come on, everybody, engage with me. Everybody's been trained and taught to break out their cell phone and go to video and start putting it into, that is going to get, and I bet it has gotten a lot of people hurt or killed, was first thing that they went to grab was their phone. You won't need your phone, folks. You don't, let me tell you something. A phone, if that's the thing that's going to protect you, let me tell you something. Is the percentages on that one, I mean, you got to go with what you got to go with, but you down to really low odds there. Stop attaching ourselves to these darn phones. Parents, first thing, your obligation is to protect your children. In spite of what you want, it's your children that your obligation is to protect them first and foremost. So now, if you're in the distance, you hear something that goes on, get out of harm's way. And let me tell you, one of the best ways to leave a threatening area is the hardest way. Don't take it unless, sometimes you want to take the most accessible, easiest path because the priority in emergency requires that you need to get out right away. But sometimes the best path is not the most convenient one. It's the hardest one. Case in point, if you are outside, okay, you're outside, and you're relatively close to something, and things go awry, okay? And the topography of the landscape of everything is that you're on the streets, and there's a clear path in the street and everything else. But on the side of you is a hill and all this other stuff. Hill is real hilly and rocky and everything else. Trees is sometimes the best avenue to escape. Is not the easiest access because you have to be mindful that may be the trap. Sometimes it's the hardest way out. I know for me, one of the first things that I always try to do is take the hardest path because it's the one that's least traveled. I don't look for convenience. Okay? So that's there. Now, let's say you were in that airport. First thing you want to do is get cover and concealment. Now, you got to know the difference between cover and concealment. Concealment just hides you from the threat, where the threat can't see you. Okay? I looked at, and you can see, I bet a lot of people have already been schooled and trained from the mainstream media. First thing they tell you is to get down and all this other stuff. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Getting down is probably some of the worst thing that you can do. The thing you need to do is move. And the first thing you need to move towards is cover first and then concealment second. Cover keeps you from getting hit by whatever the assailant is using. And you better move from it instinctively, and right away. And there's a way in which to move, and you got to identify what is cover and what is concealment. Ladies and gentlemen, a plastic garbage can is concealment, while a tree, a big thick tree, is cover. A big a freeway divider is cover, and you need to move to that cover right away. And we need to train and engage our children with that as well. Okay, that's the first thing you need to always do. Identify cover and concealment. As soon as something goes awry, move to it. Go ahead, Scotty. You wanted to say something?
Yes, sir. Just remembering because we've talked about this before and trying to tell the people who listen how to best survive these situations. We talked about this during the Pulse nightclub shooting, how all those people were just looking for concealment and weren't really trying to protect themselves when you had all those weapons lying around, meaning beer bottles, chairs, glasses, all kind of stuff. But the Emmanuel Church, I'm sitting here trying to remember. I don't recall them reporting that anyone tried to run. They all tried to hide, and they all got killed. Now, just imagine if they just ran. As soon as they heard shots, they started running for the exits, and you got more than one exit. I'm not saying he wouldn't have killed more, but he wouldn't have killed them all. Some would have got away, in my opinion.
Yes, and let's take that both ways. Scotty's out to. Let's take that from this standpoint. What if he wasn't the only one? What if the actual exits were barricaded for those individuals not to be able to get out, especially in that you got to look at every scenario. These are the things this is why wherever you go, you have to be mindful of where you are and what tools you have to use to protect yourself and your family. Now, what if the exits were barricaded where nobody could get out. So everyone was in one spot. Okay? And like we said, there comes a time when you need to fight. You need to fight with everything that you have. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you go somewhere in today's world and you get a bad, funny feeling about it, don't question that. Things just don't look right, and especially if you've been there before and you're like, hey, what in the world? This is all, man, people in Paris. People in Paris. Don't just lay there, because there's going to be other people that aren't thinking about it, and they're going to lay there, and let me tell you, you're going to move towards those individuals first and foremost. So now, you got to think about that. One of the things that you do, now, if you're in that situation, cover and concealment, move to cover and concealment. Now, let's say you were in that, one of the things that you were in that airport, in that area, and something happened. You know how the baggage goes? Maybe you need to jump in on that baggage thing and jump in, out, and then go get to the tarmac and then follow along from there. You want to get yourself out of harm's way as quickly as possible as you possibly can. Look at your surroundings wherever you are. Wherever you are. Another thing, look at what is exposing you. Look at always what's exposing you. Case in point, we got a caller. Definitely want this caller in as the reason why we had this show today. Sometimes your phone is going to give you away more than anything. Case in point, I was in the movie theater. Lights was out. Remember the movie shooting? Right? Before it starts or whatever, everybody got their lights on their phone. Let me tell you something about your phone. Your phone ain't going to save you, folks. Your phone is not going to save you at all. Okay? Be mindful of some things. And then I want to talk about a couple of other things. For those of you that are CCW carriers, there are things that you need to be thinking about. And I always say, if you are a CCW, a concealed carry, you legally carry a concealed weapon, you can. One of the things that you may want to be thinking about is don't just carry one firearm with you, because when the stuff hits the fan, it may be better for you to throw something to someone else so that both of y'all can get out together. Okay? It's depending on who's in your crowd, who's with you. One thing I always do is I always surround myself with trained people. That's just me. That's just my background. And then I know if something goes awry, there's things that we can do. So we're definitely going to talk about that in a minute. For those of you that are trained and those of you that do have CC, you really need to actually train a whole lot more with that, and you need to have tactical training on how to best utilize those tactics to protect you and everyone else around you as well. All right? Because there's different tactics with that as well. So we got a caller in queue. Definitely want to bring this caller up. Hassan, you there, brother?
Yeah, what's up, man?
What's up, brother? Well, man, listen. You're the reason why we started this, man, so this show for today. So why don't you just jump in and tell everyone just whatever you want to tell them, and just, why it's so important to be prepared and to have a conscious thought process before things happen, so that when they do happen, you're clear in your overall assessments and your response to it.
Right, yeah, man, because I found myself in that exact same situation that you're speaking of yesterday. And it was crazy because, I mean, I've been through it all, man. So, I mean, I've even been in situations like that, but never with a horde of people. But anyways, to everybody listening, I was in the mall yesterday, and all hell broke loose. It was no different than being in the Fort Lauderdale airport, the other week or whatever, because nobody knew what was going on, and all of a sudden, you just see hundreds, possibly thousands. I mean, the mall was crowded. It was a Sunday afternoon, You just see hundreds. You see the entire mall running towards you, and I was inside. I'll give you the whole thing from my point of view. I was inside of the music store, which is closing down. So I was in there looking at all the deals because everything is 70% off.
And you have responsibilities with you. You had people that you're responsible for with you.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, my sole responsibility. I have my two daughters who are 11 and 8, my wife, and our 5-year-old niece with us. And so we were in the store. We were separated in the store. I was in one part of the store. They were in another, more towards the front. And I was like in the middle, and I was looking at the tower speakers, like the Bluetooth speakers. And I just heard my wife yell my name in a complete panic. And you know the voice. Everybody knows that voice when somebody yells your name like that. And I immediately looked to my left. I couldn't see outside of the store, but I immediately saw complete emergency movement within the store itself. So my initial thought was someone was trying to kidnap one of my kids. But even in that initial thought, it was like, I mean, it's way too panicked just in the store alone. So, I immediately stepped into the aisle and started running towards the front of the store. And from there, I immediately saw literally the entire mall running towards, coming towards me. And so I run, and so I immediately go into combat mode. I mean, like just at the drop of a dime. My whole mindset changed. Everything changes. My mindset is like that anyway, 24 hours a day. But I'm ready at the drop of a dime. And so I immediately assess my immediate surroundings. I assess my further surroundings, and I immediately looked. I looked further beyond the horde of people coming towards me to see what's behind them. And all of this happens, as I'm saying it, it seems like minutes, but really you have 1 second, 2 seconds to do these things. And I did all the above in less than 1 second. So, and just, I caught up and I caught up to my wife and the kids, and I immediately knew where I was at in the mall too. I knew that the store I was in was right next to JCPenney's, which leads to the outside of the mall. So I knew that, okay, so for me, in my mind, if she wouldn't have been going so fast with the kids, I might not even went outside because I knew I was right there by the outside. Let me see what's going on. And, I immediately started listening for gunshots, bombs, anything. I didn't hear nothing. And, I'm surveying the people's faces just to see the looks on their faces. I'm listening for words and, what do they hear, what do they see? And so we're running. And
critical. Wait. That's critical because that's gathering intelligence as quickly as you possibly can. Go ahead, brother. I'm not going to go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm doing all this within seconds, man. Yeah. You got to move fast and I would to say what I want to say at the end. Okay. So we're running, and it's a whole crowd of people running. Everybody's running. Everybody's panicking. We still don't know what's going on. Obviously you're going to think the worst. And it's funny thinking back on it because when she initially yelled my name, I thought something was happening with one of the kids. To find out that it was a horde of people in a panic was actually an ease for me because it was like, we're doing this. Oh, okay. I'm already ready for this. I'm not ready for somebody trying to kidnap my kids.
Right.
So I was actually at ease. Like, yeah, exactly. I was actually like, oh, we're doing this. Oh, okay, okay, I know how to do this.
Right. It's a sigh of relief.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was like, and when we ran outside, we got outside, people were panicking, people's kids were crying. I started getting upset because it was like, first things first, everybody calmed down. My wife, I hate to say it and throw her under the bus, but she was actually one of those people. So we were separate in the situation because it was like I'm completely calm and I'm surveying everything. As soon as I got outside, as soon as you step out the door from where we were, you're right next to a parking garage with. So I immediately survey all of that. I survey the floors, the vehicles that I'm by. Okay, I get in between. I get kind of by some vehicles just because I got to jump under one or at least throw the kids under one. I'm thinking of all this. She doesn't know this is what I'm doing, but she's kind of in the way of the way that I handle the situation because she's like all scared and panicked. We don't even have a clue what we're running from at this point. And the more and more I surveyed the people's faces, the more and more I started to realize that they don't have a clue what they're running from. So I was like, wait a minute, man. Okay, hold on. We're not doing this. Everybody stop. At least my group. Everybody stop right now. I asked a lady who happened to be. I was asking people, and no one had an answer. I finally did ask a lady who was coming from the actual area where this was going on, and she said there was a gun. There was a gun. There was a guy. He had a gun. He was pointing at people. It looked like he was a white guy, military. I was like, oh, where was that at? You know, my first question was where. She said the food court. Okay, that's a little bit away from where we work. Okay, so that's what's going on there. I'm thinking to myself, I didn't hear any gunshots. I didn't hear anything. She's so out of her mind, and she tells my wife, the guy had a gun. I don't think she knew that was with me. She yelled to her, the guy had a gun. He had a gun. Run. My wife takes the kids and starts taking off across the parking lot. The lady don't even take off. What are you running for? And the lady don't take off. The lady's standing there talking to me. She's standing there. The lady was just out of her mind. Everybody was out of their mind. So I called my wife back. She comes back over there still, you know, listening to me, but at the same time not really wanting to. And it was just like, you know, it was just complete chaos and mayhem. And I'm even leaving stuff out of it because it's so much of a story. It was complete chaos. But come to find out, what happened was someone did get mad in the food court, and he stabbed one guy, and he stabbed another guy who tried to help him. So that's what actually happened. But for the reaction that was taken, it was no different. It could have been 10 people killed, and I would consider myself right now as living through something just like the airport thing, because that it's the same exact scenario that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. People are just going to follow the crowd and follow the herd, and you know. So I was upset because my wife got in the way of the way I would handle it. So it was like, well, first things first, I might not even ran that fast, you know, and just you know, to know what's going on or whatever. And like I said, I knew where I was at. You know, I immediately figured out where I was at in the mall, and I was looking at different routes. I was even looking at different routes than where the crowd was going. People got outside and were running across the parking lot here. They don't even know where to run. You might be running to the problem. And so that's that. You know, I was all worried. You know, I was kind of upset because it ended up kind of making me yell at her and come at her a certain way. And, you know, I called you and talked to you about it. You gave me a whole different outlook on it. And so basically, you know, I what I want to say, you know, for anybody listening is that, you know, when you get in those, for one, it really can and will happen when you're not thinking about it. You know, no one's thinking about it, ever. You're never thinking about it, ever. So, right. You know, it's going to happen. It can happen right now while we're talking on the phone. Anything can happen. And you just got to be ready. And because, you know, I learned so many things from being in that situation yesterday. Every little thing matters. Every little thing matters. And I learned so much from being in it. And I learned about myself. I learned about the people that were with me, and I also learned about the master. And so, you know, and that leads me to know that, you know, it's sad to say that, you know, when it really does go down, I mean, that was a good practice run for me yesterday. That's what it was a training drill, like a high training drill, like you know, like they say in the military, you know, we just live
a chance to learn. A chance to learn and debrief from it, and right.
Yeah, and so it just kind of made me realize, like, man, a lot of people, you know, when it really does hit the fan like that, a lot of people, even people close to us, even people listening to the show, man, they're not gonna make it, man, because, you know, even a lot of the things that I did within those couple seconds, I mean, you really got to train yourself to be able to do that, and that's why you know, thinking back on, like, you know, some of Brother Davis's shows on Wednesdays, you know, he's giving you the basics of stabilizing your mind and being able to react to things like that. And so, you know, I just want to make sure that everybody is knowing that, you know, think about all those little things and just know that you're going to have literally 1 second, 2 seconds to do things that would normally take maybe a few minutes. You got to condense it all down, and you have to be able to do it. There is no maybe, there is no nothing. You don't have a choice, and you got to do what you got to do. Like, and in the midst of all of that, it was like, you know, I was moving so fast in the beginning when she yelled my name. I dropped my cell phone and my 2 keys. and my keys, two things that I needed. The car. I need my keys to get out of there, and I need my phone since I got to make a call. And it was like I dropped that, and then, as a matter of fact, I dropped that in the beginning when she yelled my name. And ever since I picked those two up, that's when I knew to slow down. I started off dropping my cell phone and my keys out of my pocket, and it was like that alone let me know immediately, slow down.
Yep.
I don't care what's going on. Slow down. You just dropped the two things that you may need in less than 3 minutes. So and even with dropping stuff, I didn't have a choice but to stop and pick them up. I'm not gonna leave it. Especially not knowing what's going on. And so that's one thing I just wanted to say was that people when they do find themselves in situations, because I hate to say it, we are gonna find ourselves in that situation. Is that it gave me little things to think about to say to others. That I know I would do, but
hold on. Hey, son, hold on. We're getting ready to go to a break because it's just too important what you're talking about. The gold nuggets that you're dropping, the jewels that you're dropping is so important. Listen, guys, get ready to go to a commercial break, then we'll come right back to you. Listening to Thando Radio Show brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Black Talk Radio since 2008, providing new black media for the masses.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Then hit *. We'll see you in queue and definitely will bring you up. And my man, Brother H, is in the Pacific Northwest, and he was telling us about, and man, the brother was just dropping so many critical things. I hope that you are actually getting them. And if I was you, I would definitely get this podcast, listen to it over and over again, and start to conceptualize some things that you're going to do. We're going to talk about that, but I want to get back to him. Brother, go ahead and continue because it's very, very important. I got a couple of questions for you once you're ready.
Okay, man. So I'm gathering all kind of as much intel as I can. I'm asking people who I think might know what's going on. I'm surveying their outfits, looking like, I saw two people come out of some side door that worked in the food court. You could tell they worked in food, and I asked them what was going on, and that's when I got the full story. And it was like, all that just happened because of this. It was like, really, all the whole mall was locked, everything was locked down, and even. Another thing, prior to me really finding out the story, this is when I still thought it was a shooting and that somebody had a gun, they were pointing at people. I said, well, where? They were like the food court. I looked at, my options to what I had to get back to my vehicle. I didn't have a choice but to walk that way. So I immediately started, looking for different routes because regardless, I'm getting to my vehicle, regardless. So me and my wife wasn't on the same page, so I grabbed my youngest daughter by the hand and was like, okay, well, she's coming with me. Y'all can go whichever direction y'all want to go.
Now, a couple of questions, real quick. Now, would you say from just that experience, would you say that it's dangerous not to be prepared? And because if you're not prepared, the first thing that you're going to do is respond in great emotion. Would that be one of the assessments?
Yeah. The first, exactly what you said. First thing people are going to do is respond just like that, and that's completely incorrect.
Yes. Now, looking back on it, what some of the things that you found? Were you able to debrief and to reassess some of the things, and were you able to apply that to other things? Like, what if now that scenario was really this, but what if it was this? Do you think that you're better prepared now because of going through this? And what were some of the things that you've learned? Probably, and the most important thing, what were some of the most important things that you've learned from going through that yesterday?
Some of the most important things I learned was like I said, I learned stuff about myself, which I kind of felt like my reaction was correct as far as so I kind of learned that you actually you might be kind of ready for something like that because so that was cool to learn that, but also I learned I also learned to I already knew this, but I learned to make don't go whichever direction everybody else is going. You can't worry about what everybody else is doing. You got to stop and survey the area and survey what's going on and try to find out what's going on. Because I stopped and was finding out what was going on while people were still en route, continuously, aimlessly going. So, I learned that to make sure that you stop and figure out what's going on before you go any further. Like you got out of the initial immediate threat, which you thought was an immediate threat. You got out of that. Now let's stop, debrief before we move, any further to know do we need to go any further or stay where we are. Do we need to go back? You know what I mean? So.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of the good things is that now use this as hypotheticals as to add to it or change up the dynamics. You definitely want to, and this isn't being paranoid. No, it's just the opposite. See, let me tell you something about sometimes what scared people will do, when you start to think rationally, well, what is this, what is that, they look at you like, why are you doing that? We're not dealing with, because people that aren't prepared, they only live in the moment that they're in. They have they use no foresight of what could happen. And that is not a sign of intelligence. That's a sign of being schooled. And if you look at how people respond to things, they're always going to respond to things the way that they've been taught. One thing that I've picked up is that people will do what they've been taught to do. And it's incumbent upon yourself to educate yourself on some of the more appropriate things to do instead of what the system has taught you to respond to. And let me tell you, that's always the worst thing for you to do. Some of the worst things for you to do. Now, in that situation, there's so many variables. One thing that let's just take this situation. If you're in the mall, always know where you are. When you get into the mall, know your mall that you're in. If you don't know them, find out where you are completely from where you are. Just stop, look at everything. Don't aimlessly walk around. Look for the shops. I'm looking for this store. No, first thing to do is that you find in that store may not get you. By you not having a plan if something goes awry, the odds of it getting you is greater. Survey, like Hassan said, survey, know all of your avenues, know the layout of the place that you're in, know the ingressing and outgressing things, and also remember this, know the layout of that mall, because sometimes while everybody's running out the mall in the corridors and that gets bogged, get in. If you're in the store, stay in the store. Don't run out into the mob. Run out through their exit.
Yeah, exactly.
Their emergency exit.
And those are all things that I knew.
Exactly.
All of those stores have those little back doors. Maybe not every single last one of them, but that particular one I was in did. And
exactly.
In the beginning.
And you can know that by knowing the mall and how it's arranged before. Just the setup of it, I tell you, because you can see the back doors for the stores if you drive around the back. You got to know these things. So if you're in the store, if you're in this mall, and it's a major mall, and everybody's bottlenecking at the doors and at the escalators, that's not a good place to be. If there's a real threat, a real credible threat that has the capability of causing some massive casualty event, what you may want to do is that you may want to run behind the counter, run behind the register, run into the back office and get out that exit. So that may be...
No, go ahead.
No, I said that may be something that you need to consider, knowing where you are at all times, and probably more importantly, always ask the question, what if something happens? What's some of the things? Because I'm going to tell you, once it does happen, you will take those precious moments and use them to your advantage because you will respond to it immediately. It's called reading the signs. When you're not prepared for something to happen, you respond to it emotionally. That's when you start people scream. That's when you see people screaming, crying, and that ain't gonna help. That's just the truth. It's your thought process that's gonna help you, not your emotional breakdown. And most people emotionally break down because they're not prepared. Doesn't matter who you are. If you're not prepared, people get scared. Okay, so very, very important. So let me see. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call. 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Now, this is not putting down people that, but you don't have to be. You're not cut of that cloth. You've been a part of this network. You've been a part of this program. You can actually deal with anything regardless how bad it is. There's always options for you, and most importantly, you have to create your options. Okay, so very, very important. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call. So now the dynamics of things. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was another thing that kind of what you just said as far as for myself, I was trying to figure out how do you look at people without looking down on them for not having the experience that you have or reacting to something the way you will react to it because of your past events that I've been through. So that was a hard thing too for me to show how I felt as far as people not doing what I did basically or staying the way I stayed in the situation. So that's another thing that I've learned as far as learning something was that you got to have patience with other people too, and especially if they're within your camp, with the people that you're with.
Yeah, very mature thing. A very, very mature thing to do. And I'm gonna tell you, regardless of what happens, you always debrief and rebrief what happens. Because what you do 2 weeks and a month from now, you revisit this event because other things will add. One thing you want to do always is with your family, and a lot of times we debrief the wrong way. You remember when we were growing up, something happened and everybody would get together and say what they have. Oh, did you see? I did this. But see, that's what really needs to. You need to have a very constructive debriefing about what happened. And the debriefing is where you can learn from how everyone acted, how you acted, and everyone else, and what was the best avenue, and what things that you learned that you can use to your advantage in the future, and one of the first things that you got to do is you always got to learn your limitations. You got to look at, most importantly, what was the things that you did wrong first. The key to winning is you first have to learn you got to first learn how to properly lose. Okay?
Right.
Find out the things. I don't care if you did everything. You have to really, really have constructive criticism of the things that you did not do right, and find out what those things are, and try to.
That's what I've been doing since yesterday. Is try to think of what did I do wrong, what did I do right, and what needs to be worked on. There it is. I know you. I handled everything all perfect. Oh yeah, I'm ready for it. It can happen tomorrow. Nah.
Yes. Yeah, and no, because none of us are. Because things come up on, and I think that the thing that really happens is this is a great opportunity when you go through things. Use that opportunity to share it with your family. Yeah. Share what happened with not only with just your immediate family, but your extended family and some of your friends, because lo and behold, they may be with your family when something like this goes awry, and then you miss the opportunity to school and teach them. And then now, guess what? They ain't prepared. And you want to minimize that as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, because everybody's ready to talk about it now. Like, you know, I reached out to my, you know, my other family members, you know, today and told them about it. I said, man, we all got to talk. And, you know, after really giving them the details of the situation, everybody's like, yeah, you know, that's true. We got to talk. And even my 8-year-old, she's listening right now. She's sitting right here. She said, you know, yesterday after everything was all calmed down, she said, you know, this is my first time being in a situation like this. I said, yeah, but it might not be the last. So we're going to take this and we're going to go over it. Right. You know, I didn't even say Mike. I didn't say Mike. I just said that because I'm on the radio. I didn't say Mike. I told her it's not going to be your last. So
Right. Well, that's being honest. I mean, because there are things that are always going to come up. Now, some of the things I want to just to give our listening audience some food for thought. Sometimes your avenue of escape sometimes could be, let's say you're out in a parking, you know, somewhere, and things are going awry, and then you know it's really, really bad, where you may get confronted with multiple people from different directions. And one of the things about, unless case in point, if you are, God forbid, you're like in a Paris situation, where it was gunfire all through the streets. One of the things that people don't realize is that gunfire in a city in bouncing off the sound bouncing off the building, sometimes it's very difficult for you to identify how many people you're dealing with. You could be dealing with multiple people. Sometimes a good place to hide is under a car, just for you to stop and to survey where you are. So survey where you make sure you ain't getting in the car under a car that somebody's going to be jumping in and peeling out on. Make sure you're not that. But if you're like in a parking structure, you know, boom, get under a car. Get under a car, and then that way, and then what does the car give you? Underneath the car, it gives you an opportunity to look from underneath. Also, what you could do, too, is in your covering your concealment, one of the first things you want to do is look under the car so that you can survey as far out as you possibly can. That's some things you need to be thinking about and things you need to be doing so that this is all movements to get you out of harm's way. You always got to get yourself out of harm's way, what we call the kill zone. You got to get yourself out of the kill zone, and there's ways in which to do that. So, hey, we'd love to hear from you all. If you got a question or a comment that you would like to make, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025, then hit **. And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it may be something small. It may be a fight between two individuals that go crazy, or you may be dealing against some real tactical operation. And ladies and gentlemen, the dynamics of an ambush, the ambush by trained professionals, man, that requires some real planning, and you're going to have to maintain your emotions and have a real conscience of response. And there's times that you do things, and there's times that sometimes just because you could don't mean that you should.
You're right.
Just because you could don't mean that you should. You know,
even if you there was another thing I wanted to say, because that you got to be conscious of when you find yourself in those situations, is that people are gonna, when everybody else is completely out of their mind, they just say anything. Because there was more than one person that was saying, out of their own mouth, I saw a guy, he had a gun, he was pointing at people. They said that, and I think it was maybe 3 people that said that. And it was like, and then come to find out that's not even what happened. So you also got to be conscious of that, when you do find yourself in a situation that you got to know you got to know that people are out of their mind and they're saying and doing anything. It's basically, that's what I learned from that is to know that people are going to say and do anything,
Yeah.
Even if something like that was happening, it might have been 5 done, and they might say it was 20. So, just know that, you got to take it upon yourself to make sure that you survey the area and try to gather as much as you can and dissect it. Right. And then dissect what you do get from others, because who knows where they are mentally with it, because that same person might have been perfectly fine 5 minutes ago, now they're completely out of their mind. They're insane.
Yeah. Well, we got to get ready to go. Listen, and I want to just say this because we got to get ready to get out of here. Man, great. Thank you, brother, for calling in. You always have to read the signs and you have to read the energy. Read the energy. And the key to practicing reading the energy is you have to do it daily because you're bombarded with energy all the time. Make your practice now and prepare for this. So listen, everyone, my brother, thank you so much for calling. It helped out so many people. We got to get ready to get out of here. I just want to say to everyone, thank you all for listening. Oh, we got 2 minutes. If there's anyone that wanted to call in, make a comment, ask a question, we got 3 minutes, actually. 2 minutes, sorry. 2 minutes. So if you wanted to do that, definitely jump in right now. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. You're going to have to be quick with your question. If not, that's cool. We'll definitely rehash this because we're going to bring in different events. And we're just going to bring up hypotheticals. And what I would ask you to do as Thando Radio Show listeners, engage in, because what you speak is what you start to do. Call into the show and say, hey, this is a scenario I would like to talk about. If this happens, what do you guys think about this? Because it's so, so important. This is the time that you should be doing this right now, because what some of the things that could possibly happen to where you are and from where I am and everything else could be totally different. But still, if you find yourself in that situation, the time to ask for a question or to get some advice is over.
That's over. Yep. That's the situation I found myself in. It was time to act. And luckily, I mean, between what I've been through myself and between what I've learned listening to you, I was able to react in a proper way and for what I had for what I had up against me. So
right,
it was good.
My man, never scared, always prepared. And brother, you exemplified that. Never scared, always prepared. So let's get ready, because there are going to be small things and some very big things that you need to be prepared for. And you can squander it now, but I truly hope that you don't find yourself in these predicaments, because if you're not prepared for it. So this is what we want to help you with. So thank you all for listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. It's never goodbye. It's always I'll see you later. And remember, before you ask for a fortune, make sure to give one away. My man Hassan, you gave a fortune away, brother. So back to you. Much love, much respect. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
The